Welcome to
Theories
of the third kind.
Welcome to Theories of the Third Kind. My name is Aaron. The other host that is joining me today is Danielson.
Hello.
Now, before we start today's episode, we do have a few announcements to make.
If you would like to support the show, you can do so by joining our premium subscription service. For just $6.66 a month, you can enjoy weekly premium audio episodes that are all ad-free and have access to our entire back catalog that is also ad-free.
Or if you are a big baller, shot caller, and you ride on 20-inch blades like Lil Troy, you can sign up for our premium membership, which is only $9.99 a month. And that grants you access not only to our audio episodes, but also our video versions of those episodes as well. So you can not only watch us on YouTube each week for free, only once a week, but you can also get a second video episode for that premium membership that you signed up for. And to get access to that, just go to our website, theoriesofthethirdkind.com. There's going to be a button right in the middle that says Supercast. You click on that. It's going to take you over to the website and allow you to sign up. And it takes no time at all. Or if you're listening on Spotify, you can go to the Spotify app and you can click on the premium episodes and sign up through that. Yeah.
Now, we know things are tough out there right now, but if you can't afford a premium membership, but you still want to help us out, you can do so by leaving us a review on iTunes or Spotify.
That helps us out a lot.
However, don't feel pressure to leave us one if you don't want to. That's fine. We just want you guys, girls, aliens, reptilians, Bigfoot, Sasquatches, chupacabras, ghosts, Illuminati members, underground lizard people, whoever or whatever you are, to enjoy the show.
Nice.
Also, remember that this episode is entirely human-made. No AI was used or harmed in the process other than for the graphic base.
All right. That is the end of the announcements. And today's episode is called The Day of Darkness. And for us to start off this entire episode, we first need to talk about what life was like in New England in the 1770s. And in case some of you don't know, and you're not from the United States, New England is the northeastern region of the United States. This area includes states such as Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island.
They eat beans for breakfast.
Yes, and this area is also known for its colonial past, Atlantic coastline, and forested mountains. And it is this area that our entire story revolves around today. So like I said, we are first going to talk about what life was like in the 1770s in that area. That way you can get a good understanding of what the average person was going through back then. So Dan, can you start that off for us?
Absolutely. So I want you all to sit back, close your eyes, and imagine this, the picture that we are about to paint for you. It's the 1770s, and you are living in New England, specifically near Boston, Massachusetts, in a small cabin with your family. You rise at dawn to the crow of a rooster.
Your breath fogs the air of the cramped upstairs room that you share with your siblings. Downstairs, you can hear your mother already stirring a pot of cornmeal porridge that is filled with dried apples from last autumn's harvest. Now, as you lay in bed, hesitant to get up, you hear your father's boots thud on the wooden floor as he heads out to the fields, where the wheat stretches towards the rising pale morning sun. You get out of bed and walk outside following your father.
You look down at your hands, and they're calloused from years of tending crops, mending fences, and hauling water from the creek. Life here is sweat and soil.
Most days you work alongside your father, though sometimes you barter your labor or you help your neighbors raise a barn. The land is rich, but so are the tensions. When you go to town to sell your father's crops, you see flyers nailed to tavern doors. These flyers talk about the Boston Tea Party and the intolerable acts.
Also, you are a Presbyterian, like most people in these parts, and every Sunday you go to church. During Sunday church service, the preacher prays for peace, but after Sunday service, the men cluster together afterwards, their voices low and urgent. As you get closer to the group of men, you hear some of them swear loyalty to the crown, while others spit the words loyalist like a curse.
You head back home only to find out that your older brother had joined the local militia last month, drilling with a musket that is older than he is. Your mother hides her worry by kneading bread dough harder while muttering the word fools.
You sit at the dinner table, and supper is simple: salt pork, boiled turnips, and brown bread, washed down with cider from your orchard.
After dinner, you sit by the candlelight and tend to a harness that you are making. The smell of tallow is sharp in the air. As you look out the window, you see your neighbor's enslaved man, Sam, walking back from the fields.
People around town don't talk much about slavery here. Some hate it, others don't mind it. You sit there and wonder how Sam feels about all this talk of liberty that is happening. So you head back upstairs to the cramped upstairs room that you share with your siblings and decide to go to sleep.
And that right there is what life was like for the average person living in Boston in the 1770s. And now that we have a better understanding of that, let's talk about what our entire episode revolves around today: the Day of Darkness.
All right. So it's May 17th, 1780, and you are in New England. On this day, it seems like a normal day. You wake up and begin to go outside to help your father in the fields. However, as you step outside, you begin to notice something strange.
In the sky above you, the sun is bright red in color. In the sky, it is completely yellow.
That's how I see things.
Your family ignores it and tells you to fetch some water from the river. Now, when you get to the river, you notice that there is soot all over the top of the water, just floating by you.
Now, this was not just happening to you. This happened all over New England for the next few days. However, that is nothing compared to what happens next.
On May 19th, 1780, only a few days after the sky turned yellow and the sun turned red, the inhabitants of New England were shocked. In the early morning hours, the sky became completely dark, as if it were the middle of the night. The darkness caused flowers to close and the birds to return to their roosts.
The moon began to cast an unusual red glow as the darkness spread from Maine all the way down to New Jersey, creating an atmosphere of dread and confusion. This event would be known as the Day of Darkness. Now, there are a lot of firsthand accounts that, were documented over this Day of Darkness.
Yep. And the earliest report of the darkness came from Rupert, Vermont.
Of the darkness, Charlie Murphy.
Where the sun was already obscured at sunrise. Then in Massachusetts, a Professor Samuel Williams wrote, and I quote, "This extraordinary darkness came on between the hours of 10 and 11 a.m. and continued till the middle of the next night."
Another individual in Massachusetts, Reverend Ebenezer Parkham, reported that the entire sky was completely dark by noon. However, he did not record the time that it first started.
At Harvard College, the event was reported to arrive at 10:30 a.m., peaking at 12:45 p.m., and becoming less intense by 1:10 p.m., but a heavy overcast remained for the rest of the day. This darkness was so overwhelming that candles were required from noon on, which, by the way, there was a report that it was so dark outside, they had to have candles whenever they walked around. There were reports that, this is not funny, but some individuals were walking with the candle and they couldn't see where they were going, and they accidentally walked into off the harbor dock into the water, and a large amount of people drowned.
Guessing they couldn't swim?
No, couldn't swim. So yeah.
The darkness was reported to have reached Barnstable, Massachusetts by 2 p.m., with the peak reported to have occurred around or at 5:30 p.m.
It was also reported at 2 p.m. in Ipswich, Massachusetts, that roosters crowed, woodcocks whistled, and frogs peeped as if night had fallen.
Another strange report stated that there was a strong sooty smell in the atmosphere and that rainwater had a light film over it that was made up of particles of burnt leaves and ash up to a depth of 6 inches.
That is a lot of
That
ash.
is a lot of ash.
Now, most people were baffled by the darkness. And you have to think about it. I mean, during this time period, there was an absence of communication technologies. I'm talking about like no iPhones, no telegraphs. Telegraphs didn't come along until the 1830s. There were no radios. They didn't come along until the 1890s. So no one had the ability to communicate across long distances. And well, they did have the ability, but it wasn't quickly.
And wasn't safe during this time.
No. So they couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. The only communication they had was with each other. So it's like you couldn't turn on the TV and look at, CBS or NBC or Fox or CNN or whatever news station.
So without an understanding of the cause of this darkness, many people turned to their religious beliefs for answers. Many individuals started citing scriptures like Joel 2:31.
The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and the terrible day of the Lord come.
They also cited Revelation 6:12 to 6:13.
The sun became black, and the whole moon became as blood. The stars of the sky fell to earth.
Now, these scriptures led people to think that the apocalypse had arrived, and people began walking the dark streets, crying about the end times. However, that did not last long. The following day, the sun was back out at its normal time, as if nothing ever happened.
Yep. And in the years and centuries following this eerie event, a variety of theories were proposed to explain the dark day. Explanations range from a solar eclipse, thunderstorms, volcanic eruption, fire, a unique atmospheric phenomenon, a mountain that is obstructing the sunlight, a meteor impact, aliens arriving. The theories are all over the place. However, those are theories, and before we get into our theory section, we are first going to go over some strange facts and findings that we uncovered while researching this topic.
All right, so our first strange fact and finding is called the Year of Darkness. Now, we have covered this in a previous episode. However, instead of making you all go back and listen to it, we are going to give you all a quick refresher.
Yep. And like Dan said, it's the year of darkness. This episode is the day of darkness. Back then, they had an entire year of darkness.
This is the day of Charlie Murphy, not the year of Charlie Murphy.
Yeah. All right. So it all began in the spring of 536 AD. It was during this time that the sun began to fade. All across the world, from the bustling markets of Constantinople to the rice paddies of China, people woke to a sky that was fading.
The sun, once fierce and golden, dimmed to a faint silver disk, as if cloaked by an eternal eclipse. This continued, and by summer, frost crept upwards into the Mediterranean vineyards, and snow fell in August on the fields as far south as Mesopotamia.
Crops withered, birds fell silent, and for 18 months, the earth lingered in a cold, unyielding darkness. In Constantinople, a historian scribbled ominous notes that said,
"The sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon, and it seemed exceedingly like the sun in eclipse."
End quote. Now, fields that once fed the empire's armies yielded only stunted grains. Famine spread like a shadow. Peasants sold their children for sacks of moldy wheat. In Ireland, the record books marked the year 536 as, and I quote, a failure of bread, while in China, records tell of summer frosts and starving families reduced to eating mulberry bark. Damn it, chewing on trees.
I mean, what does that taste like?
A tree.
I mean, it's a mulberry. What the hell does mulberry taste like?
Well, it's a bark of mulberry.
Yeah, I mean, it might have like a little bit of flavor.
Nah, I'd imagine it just tastes like a fucking tree.
You think about it though, like for oranges, you don't get like the juice from inside of it. You like the orange flavor is like the peel, the skin.
That's just a tree. That's gonna taste like a fucking tree. You ever eat a tree before? You ever chew on some bark? I have when I was a kid. I used to peel off the bark a little bit, chew on it, see what it tastes like.
Man, the only thing I'd chew on like that would be anything close would be like sugarcane
Oh,
or
okay.
bamboo. All right. Even nature seemed to rebel during this time, though. Trees, their growth stunted by cold, left narrow, desperate rings in their trunks. In Scandinavia, entire villages emptied as Norse farmers abandoned their iron smelting pits and fled south. In Mesoamerica, the Mayans recorded strange, hazy skies. Their calendars and rituals suddenly do not affect the sky anymore.
Then, as if the darkness wasn't enough, death followed. By the year 541, rats carrying the bubonic plague swarmed into Byzantine ports aboard grain ships. From Egypt to Scotland, millions died. Corpses piled in streets, emperors trembled on their thrones, the world already broken by hunger, now choked on pestilence.
By the year 550, the skies finally cleared, but civilizations had already been reshaped. Populations dwindled, trade routes collapsed, the Roman dream of reuniting the Mediterranean crumbled, leaving a fractured world in its wake.
The year of darkness, 536, was no ordinary disaster. Ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica later revealed the culprit, a cataclysmic volcanic eruption, likely in Iceland or North America, that hurled millions of tons of ash and sulfur into the sky. The particles formed a shroud around the planet, reflecting sunlight back into space.
I think it was not too long ago the volcano in Iceland was still going off.
Yeah.
I don't know if it still is, but it wasn't long ago. It was active-ish. Now, temperatures plummeted, the rain turned acidic, and rivers flooded with unseasonal melt from glaciers that refused to retreat.
The year 536 was more than a year of darkness. It was a reckoning, a reminder that even empires bow to the skies. And from its ashes, a quieter, harder world emerged, one where the Middle Ages began not with a bang, but a whimper of cold, hungry breath. Damn, I should be a fucking book writer, bitch. God damn.
I felt like I was there getting the plague.
Oh, man. But yeah, that was the year of darkness.
Totally forgot how bad that was.
It lasted longer than a year because
Yeah.
that year of darkness basically echoed into eternity. Actually echoed for the next few years. Actually, the next,
Domino
20,
effect.
30 years.
Yeah.
A lot of people starved. All that shit.
Damn, so you think if we lose sunlight for a year, that's what we got to look forward to. Just think if the solar eclipse we had didn't stop and it just stayed like that.
Damn.
I got the plague.
All right, so let's talk about our next strange fact and finding.
All right, so our next strange fact and finding is called 1178 moon split. So our sky, of course, is dominated by the moon, which is the second brightest object we can see. In today's episode, we talked about how the moon turned bright red. Well, something strange happened to the moon almost 600 years prior in the year 1178.
On a crisp June evening in 1178, 5 monks knelt in prayer at Canterbury Cathedral, their eyes drifting upward as twilight deepened. The moon hung in the sky, a waxing gibbous orb glowing faintly. Then, without warning, the upper part of the moon seemed to fracture.
A flaming torch, bright as a star, streaked towards it, striking the lunar surface in a burst of light. Smoke coiled upward, lingering like a spectral veil.
The monks froze, their quills trembling as they later scribbled the event into the Gesta Stephani, a chronicle penned by Brother Gervais. Had they just witnessed the moon cracking in two? By the way, we do have that drawing posted up right here. You can see the monks pointing up, and if you look, they drew other people commenting like, "I don't want to fucking see that. Hands up, I don't want to see that."
Yo, the guy on the far right got a huge one. You see it?
What are you talking about?
All the way on the right.
Oh my God.
He's packing. That's what blocked out the sun and moon.
No, but as you can see, like the sun, or not the sun, but the moon looks weird as fuck, huh?
Oh, that thing up top above the tower right there, that's the moon?
Yeah.
It kind of looks like, what is it? some of those medals that go on, like, you get from, like, being in the military and such. I don't know why that one kind of reminds me of one of them.
Yeah.
Now, for centuries, the monks' account gathered dust, dismissed as medieval superstition. That changed in 1976, though, when Jack Hartung, a geophysicist in New York, stumbled upon Gervais's vivid entry.
For a long fucking time, for centuries, this account was basically ignored. And then finally in 1976, it was picked up. And intrigued, Jack pieced together a daring theory of what actually happened. He stated the monks had seen a colossal meteorite slamming into the moon. Now, his evidence for this? A 13-mile wide crater called Giardino Bruno. Its fresh, jagged rays visible in Apollo mission photos, suggesting it formed mere centuries ago, not millions.
Jack's idea sparked passion. Soviet Luna 24 probe images seemed to back him, and the crater's sharp features did look young.
But skeptics scoffed. If such an impact had occurred in 1178, Earth would have been bombarded by lunar debris, raining down as a storm of shooting stars, and that would be visible worldwide. Yet no other records, from China to Arabia, mentioned such a spectacle. Only 5 monks in Canterbury bore witness.
Years later, the mystery deepened. In 2001, grad student Paul Withers crunched the numbers. An impact that massive would have ejected 10 million tons of moon rock toward Earth, lighting up skies globally with 100,000 meteors an hour.
Jesus.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Then, in 2009, astronomer Tokokatsu Morata dated the crater using lunar soil samples. What was its age? Well, according to him, it was at least 1 million years old.
By 2012, cosmologist George Fritz added another blow. If Giordano Bruno were young, the moon's surface would still radiate residual heat. But it didn't.
So that begs the question, what did the monks see? It wasn't an impact. Nothing hit the moon. Well, the answer lies not in the moon, but it actually is in the Earth's atmosphere. Now imagine a meteor, a rogue space rock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hurtling towards Canterbury that night. The monks' vantage point, from their vantage point, its trajectory aligned perfectly with the moon's edge as it came across the sky.
As it blazed through the sky, the illusion was perfect. A fiery seam splitting the lunar disk, smoke-like trails swirling in its wake. The meteor, harmless and brief, vaporized in the atmosphere, leaving no trace beyond their astonished words.
So that right there is our second strange fact and finding, and that is the belief of what the monks actually saw was from their vantage point. Nothing hit the moon. It was a meteorite going across the sky. And it looked like it hit the moon, but it was just across the Earth's atmosphere and burned up, and that's what they saw instead. I find that hard to believe.
But I've always wondered, like, they say there's like no gravity, no air on the moon, no oxygen. Could there be an explosion on the moon?
I mean, if something hit it and it hit up space debris, it would seem like smoke from a distance.
But it'd be just dust, really.
It would be dust. Poof.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. All right. So let's get on to our next strange fact and finding, which is called other historical accounts. So as we dug deeper into this topic, we learned that there had been a ton of other historical accounts of the sun disappearing or dimming.
For example, in AD 934, according to a Portuguese historian, the sun lost its ordinary light for several months. Then, an opening in the sky seemed to take place with many flashes of lightning, and the full blaze of sunshine was suddenly restored.
Then, on September 29th, 1091, records state that there was a darkening of the sun which lasted 3 hours, and after which it had a peculiar color which caused great alarm.
According to a Notes and Queries correspondent of 1857, a total darkness at noon, which lasted for hours, enveloped Amsterdam on a summer day. The day was fine, the air was calm, and there was no fog. Many people were drowned by falling into the canals.
That seems to be extremely popular.
That seemed to be very popular. Why would you go walking near the canals when It's
dark. Yeah.
You can't see shit. And you know, obviously, you can't swim.
So why the fuck would you be there? Damn. Use brains, people. All right. So let's talk about our last strange fact and finding, which is called Orange Skies Day. And by the way, I had no idea this happened at all. I never even heard about it. So it's kind of shocking to me.
I've never heard of
And
it.
this is another historical account, but it's modern. Modern as in 2020. Yeah. So this all began on the morning of September 9th of 2020. Individuals in San Francisco woke up, went outside, and noticed that the sun was gone. The entire sky was a dark orange glow the entire day.
Throughout the entire day, light-sensitive bridges and streetlights remained on. Individuals had to drive with their headlights on all day. The sun was almost completely blocked out in northern parts of California.
The San Francisco Fire Department sent out a tweet that said, "We know the smoke, darkness, and orange glow is scary. It is going to get better." That's all they said.
It'll get better.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
And then former President Barack Obama stated that the orange glow was because of climate change. Yeah.
Eventually, though, it was discovered that the orange-colored hue in the sky was the result of smoke from the North Complex fire and more than 20 other wildfires, which burned more than 2 million acres east of the San Francisco Bay Area. This smoke scattered blue light wavelengths, which only allowed warmer colors to reach the Earth's surface.
Yep.
Oh,
So that happened in 2020, which it makes sense if there was millions of, acres burning, that smoke would cloud that area to where the sun couldn't get through.
I mean, not trying to make fun of California with this, but they always have wildfires that are huge. So wouldn't there be more accounts of that, though?
Depending on the fire size.
I mean, they have some big fucking fires.
Yeah.
But I think 2020 was one of the biggest ones.
I remember seeing videos of people driving around and just like the fires, it looked like an apocalypse.
Looked like hell.
Yeah. All right. So that is the end of our strange facts and findings. And now we are going to get into the theories surrounding this episode and try to figure out what is the cause of the day of darkness. So our first theory is called solar eclipse. Now, during a central solar eclipse, for a few minutes, the moon completely hides the face of the sun. However, there is never complete darkness, as the sun's outer atmosphere, the corona, provides some light. How much light there is depends on the extent of the corona, which varies during the solar activity cycle. However, when we pull the astronomical data during that time period of the day of darkness, it states that there was no eclipse during that period of the day of darkness. So that rules out that theory of it being a solar eclipse.
I mean, solar eclipses don't last more than a couple minutes usually.
Yeah. And the day of darkness lasted a full day. So, solar eclipse, not it.
Not it. The next theory could be it, though, which is our next theory is called dust storm. Sometimes desert dust raised by a storm is lifted into the upper air and, like smoke, carried for hundreds of miles. An event of this sort caused terror in Baghdad on May 20th, 1857. A dust storm had been blowing all day when at about 5 p.m. a darkness set in that was deeper than the darkest night. Panic gripped the city. People looked for each other to see the end of the world together. After about 5 minutes, though, the black darkness was succeeded by a red, lurid gloom, and a dense volume of red sand fell. So individuals state that a dust storm was the cause of the day of darkness.
I would put that on the low probability.
Low probability, but possible.
Yeah. All right. So our next theory is called volcanic eruption. Now, a great volcanic eruption can send dust into the stratosphere and around the world, causing solar obstructions over a vast area. For example, in 536 AD, like we talked about earlier, the year of darkness, in Italy, for the entire year, the sun sent forth his rays without his usual brilliance like the moon. In Mesopotamia, the sun was darkened for 18 months. This was the result of a huge eruption from a volcano, like we said earlier. However, when you look deeper into it, an individual named Thomas Charlton, an atmospheric science professor at the University of Manchester, he states that there are no records of volcanic activity in 1780, making a sun-obscuring ash cloud improbable, meaning that volcanic eruption was not the case. So that can be ruled out.
Unless someone didn't record it. Write it down, pretty much.
Well,
he said that there was no record of one.
Yeah.
But if someone just didn't decide not to write it down, could have been.
I mean, you got to think there's an entire population and no one wrote it down. Someone had to have said something. Kind of like the monk thing. Only 5 monks recorded the moon got blasted in half.
It was dark. They couldn't see. They probably wrote it, but they probably had the pen cap on or something.
Yeah.
It's so dark, I can't see this, what I'm writing. I hope I got it down. Look, damn it, I didn't write anything. I guess I can see that.
Yeah.
So our next theory is called biblical prophecy. Some state that the reason the sky felt dark was due to a higher power, aka God, or some religious figure creating such an event to fulfill a biblical prophecy at the end of times.
I'm going to put that down as low.
That's a low, because I mean, not saying that God or religious figure doesn't have any power, but obviously it wasn't the end of times.
No.
we're here. So,
all right. So let's talk about our next theory, which is called aliens. So this theory states that an alien spacecraft that was very large approached the New England area and blocked out the sun for a period of time. Low probability.
Maybe they're sensitive to sun rays.
What are they, fucking vampire?
They could be. Or, I mean, you think they have that, if we go with the gray alien, that's their skin. It looks really thin to me.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's too sensitive for the sun. Maybe they live in a darker environment.
Maybe. That's why they have big old eyes.
Big old eyes.
So they can sense more light in the darkness. That's why they live out in space, those big old cat eyes.
Exactly.
All right. So why don't you tell us about this next theory, Dan?
All right. So this next theory is called meteorite impact. Some individuals claim that maybe a meteorite impacted near New England, causing dirt and dust to be launched into the sky and blocking out the sun temporarily. However, there has never been any physical evidence of a meteorite impact in the area of New England during that time of darkness.
So that's pretty much rolled up.
Pretty much ruled out, yeah.
Yeah. Let's get into our last theory, which is called fire. Now, in the paper titled, get ready for this, Fire Scars Reveal Source of New England's 1780 Dark Day. Its entire title. Now, this paper was published in the International Journal of Wildland Fire, and researchers noted in this publishing that the wildfires caused thick smoke columns that reached the upper atmosphere and mixed with fog, and it alterated the atmospheric conditions over vast distances. This explanation is reinforced by historical accounts that noted a smell of ash in the environment. And also, if you remember, what was in the rivers? Soot. And then it was all over the place too, 6 inches deep. Yeah. So another thing is that Boston's Jeremy Belknap, a geographer, mentioned in a 1780 letter to Ebenezer Hazard that the airborne, or the smell of malthouse or a coal, and he noted that the water bodies seemed to be covered with soot and were unusually dark. Another thing is that in 2008, the University of Missouri revealed that tree ring evidence from Ontario suggested that vast wildfires in Canada in 1780 were the probable cause of the darkness in New England.
I mean,
there's wildfires in Canada in 1780 at the same time during the Day of Darkness. The fires, soot, everything in the rivers. It was a fire that caused the Day of Darkness. I wish it would have been something more intense like aliens, but that's not the case here.
It definitely seems like it. The last theory, fire, is probably the more logical reasoning for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, aliens would be nice, though. Aliens blocked out the sun. The monk saw aliens, fucking student driver crashing into the moon. Damn it, Randy, I told you to turn right. You turned left.
Yeah. But now we get into our own personal thoughts and theories, and I'm not changing my thoughts. I seriously think it was a fire. The Canadian fires, evidence backs it all up. Everything points to that. That's what I'm going with.
Evidence-wise, it does back up a fire is what caused the Day of Darkness. I don't know, I wish it was something else. I really do. It's like I'm stuck on this. It's like there we want there to be something else, but with the evidence there, it is definitely a fire that caused the darkness. And I mean, you think about it, all the wildfires in California, Canada, and then even in the movies when like some of the volcano movies when the ash and all that stuff go up in the sky, it literally makes it look like night.
Yep.
The only thing illuminating would be the fires there.
Yep. Well, if you are a loved one, were alive back then, and you are a vampire, and you witnessed the Day of Darkness, or if you have your great-great-grandparents that have experienced that, and they left notes in their journal which you have read, please send us an email. We would love to hear from you.
The only day the vampires can go out during the day and not get turned to a crisp. Day of Darkness.
Yeah. Yep.
Very nice.
But with that being said, do you have anything else you want to add to today's episode, Dan?
No, honestly, I want to witness one of these days of darkness.
I don't.
I do. Well, I don't want like the bad stuff to happen. I just
go out at nighttime. It's dark outside. Woo. Cool. I don't want to experience an entire day of it. If you do, just go up to Antarctica.
That's true. Alaska, they have it what? Though they think their day lasts longer, actually, isn't it?
I don't know.
I guess I could do that.
Yeah. But with that being said, that is the end of today's episode. And we're going to go into a little bit of free talk.
First off, I said this on the premium episode, but I'll say it here too, in case you don't have a subscription anymore. All the pin winners that I send an email to, I need a reply back with your address and everything so we can get those prepped and ready to send out. I have most of them, but there's still at least 10 that have not responded.
Yeah.
So please, check your emails. If you won, reply back to Daniel-san.
Yes. Another thing that's very important is that I mentioned this on the premium episode, but I'll mention it here as well. I watched Game of Thrones, the Red Wedding episode. Finally got to it. Pissed me off so bad. Robb Stark was one of my favorite characters. His wife was one of my favorite characters. His mother was one of my favorite ones. And they all got murked in the wedding. Spoiler alert. Sorry for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but it's been years, okay?
See, it won't come until later. One of my favorite characters, he only showed up for a short time, the Viper.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm like, he was one of my favorite characters, and yeah.
Damn. Game of Thrones, such a great show.
Except the ending.
I haven't got there yet.
Yeah, they just, I felt like they rushed it. They made this season end too fast.
Yeah. Well.
But it is a pretty good series.
They should remake. Actually, we could remake season 8. Whenever I get to season 8, I'll watch it, and then we'll go and we'll just remake it with our camera phones. And we'll just like paint our faces or whatever. Or I'll put some wings on and pretend I'm a dragon.
I'm a dragon. Rawr.
Yeah. We'll put wings on Coda. Have him run around.
Dude, those wings would just fall right off as fast as he runs around.
Yeah. But anyways, that's the end of today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. And I hope you all have a great weekend. And if for some reason you can't get enough of us, head over to our website, theoriesofthethirdkind.com. And you can click on that button that says Supercast. It'll take you over there. You can sign up. And you can listen to all of our other exciting episodes that are premium. Today we did an episode over the Iowa Dragon.
The Iowa Dragon.
Yes, and we talked about the history of dragons and the cryptids and all that stuff. So go take a listen to that. It's a very engaging and riveting episode.
He loves dragons now.
Yes.
Especially when someone drags. Never mind.
Anyways, well, with that being said, I want to thank you for joining us today and thank you for your love and support. Without you, we could not do this.
That's right.
So, Dan, would you like to roll us out?
Sure will. It's okay to be out of this world with your thoughts.
Because you are not alone.